Thank you, everybody. Just before I start, I'd like to give a round of applause to Kerry. It's been a real difficult time. She's had some real close bereavements, and I think one of the gentlemen that would have been here tonight is somebody that was very well known in BC, and his name was Bruce Keller. And I know that he's somebody very dear to Kerry, and he was a big supporter of our work. So I would just like everyone to just raise a glass to a man that belonged in BC, who was an absolute trailblazer and supported everyone in every community, regardless of their faith and religion. So I'd just like to say for Bruce before I start my speech. Bruce, thank you. He might not be here today, but he's here with us in spirit. Thank you, everybody. Okay, what started me to start tackling issues in my own community? People always ask me that question. Sometimes I think, God, have I got a death wish? But no, that's not the reason. No, seriously, I'm a South Asian woman who's lived in BC, who's lived in Britain, and I've actually worked all over the world. I feel very blessed and very lucky to be talking about and raising issues around harmful practices, talking about honour-based violence. I want to be very clear that there is nothing honourable about abuse in the name of honour or religion or culture. So when we talk about the term honour-based violence, that addresses early child forced marriage, it addresses the issue of FGM, honour killings, because we had one in Vancouver some years ago of Jessie Sidhu, and I know that Fabian actually broke that story many, many years ago, and I know that Kerry has ties to that story herself, as she spoke about it earlier. I want to be very clear that an arranged marriage is a long-standing tradition in the South Asian community and in the African community. There is nothing wrong with an arranged marriage. But I certainly have a problem with forced marriages when we put young people under duress. When we tell young people that we are their parents, we are their siblings, or we're their grandparents, that we can make life-changing decisions on their behalf. A marriage isn't about going and buying a car or going and buying a new pair of shoes, which I often do, but however, that's another story, another talk for another day. However, you know, marriage is a lifetime commitment, and it's so important that young people have choices. I'm the founder of the UK Forced Marriage Unit. I found it 13 years ago. I was banging doors down to Prime Minister Tony Blair at the time. And he was like, oh, I don't want to get involved in this, Mandy, because, oh God, I'll be upsetting the community. I said, you need to kind of step up and support me, because actually there is nothing honourable about abusing people in the name of honour. There are young people who are being raped, being abused, being financially exploited. And you're telling me that's acceptable? And he kind of turned around and he said, no, actually, Mandy, I'm going to support you. And it was amazing when we were actually the only country in the world, in the Western world, that actually has a forced marriage unit. But I have ties to Canada, and I've worked very closely with our former ambassador in the UK, Gordon Campbell. He was very passionate about early child forced marriages. He was so committed to it that he actually seconded someone into the UK Forced Marriage Unit. And he was saying to me, Mandy, there's a real wall of silence in BC. There are so many young people being forced into marriages or suffering abuse at the hand of the people that most love them, their parents, their community, their siblings. But he said the problem is, in BC, because of political correctness, nobody wants to challenge. The one message that I would like you to take away today is that actually we have a duty to safeguard young people. Children are children, and we do not have a right to deny them of their childhood. We do not have a right to start forcing them into horrific abuse, a life of abuse. When we empower young women, we create amazing opportunities for them. So when we take a young girl out of school, she hasn't got an education, she comes back here with a spouse. She's often in a job then that doesn't pay that well, and she ends up in a life of kind of poverty. Or if she does have money, it's not a lot of money. And she's very dependent on her spouse. We need to be very clear as a community that we cannot keep pawning our children for visas and immigration into this country. Canada is a magnet. I'm a dual citizen. I'm a British Canadian national. So when I go to India or somewhere, people are kind of thinking, oh my God, isn't she kind of a lucky ticket for us? So I think, yeah, well, trust me, you'll be back for your camels in the morning. You know, that's not happening. But, you know, on a serious note, we need to be confident enough to talk about real issues that affect young people. And if a young person comes to a teacher in a university or at school and thinks that they are at risk of an early child forced marriage, currently professionals don't know where to go for help. So this is why it's so important that we support organisations like Shakti who are in the community. We educate and train the Royal Canadian Mounted Police like we do with Scotland Yard. I'm so proud of what we have achieved in Britain. It's an amazing model to follow.